Here's three price scenarios that I'm taking a look at for Veracity's ecosystem token called VRA in an event where maybe, let's say, there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season this cycle, even though nothing I say is financial advice. The first scenario I want to take a look at for VRA is going to be 4 cents. Around a 30x from here, or should I say nearly a 31x, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to say around a 30x. And market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be nearly $385 million. Now, what I find kind of fascinating is that VRA is so low in market cap to the point that, again, doing around a 30x from here, market cap at that point would still be below $400 million in terms of market cap. Again, it's just kind of fascinating to think about, especially when I consider the fundamentals of Veracity. Again, I'm not telling anyone to do anything when it comes to VRA, but I am a fan of Veracity, and let me explain why. When it comes to the Veracity ecosystem, I think arguably the most popular thing, or the thing that at least I think about when it comes to it, is VeraViews. Now, what is VeraViews, right? VeraViews is quite essentially focused on combating ad fraud. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, but isn't like being focused on other market sectors considered cooler? Well, it's going to be dependent on a case-by-case basis, and I get it. Being focused on this niche, so to speak, isn't necessarily something that has the most hype, but I think it could very well be focused on a pretty amazing thing nonetheless, because if we take a look at it, even according to an article by Forbes that I saw, and it was actually showcasing a study done by Juniper Research, it was showcased that it is estimated that by 2028, over $170 billion will be wasted due to ad fraud. That's kind of crazy to think about. And again, that's estimated by 2028. So could Veracity, or should I say VeraViews in this case, kind of make, somewhat of an impact in that? Who knows? Only time will tell. But I think that it's at least focused on something that could very well be viewed as sort of a pretty big kind of thing, nonetheless, to be focused on. That's the way I would take a look at it. However, it doesn't end there, because when it comes to Veracity, there's also the Vera wallet, right? When it comes to the Veracity ecosystem, I should say. Now, I'm totally aware that having a wallet is really nothing that special in the grand scheme of things. I mean, many projects out there have wallets, right? It's not like this is the only one, so to speak. But then, at the same time, I think it's cool nonetheless. But still, when it comes to Veracity, I take a look at VeraViews, I take a look at the Vera wallet. I think overall, I find the ecosystem pretty good to me, and I'm still a fan of the project. And I don't think it's useless. Sometimes people like to say, oh, Veracity isn't doing this, isn't doing too much, and all this type of stuff. Well, I don't have that mentality because, again, I actually think that it serves a purpose. And if, let's say, there is the trend for projects that are focused on, combating ad fraud, I would say, since arguably I think this one is pretty famous within that niche, right? Not in the grand scheme of things, but within that specific niche, I just would be very excited if that was the case, because since not that many projects are really focused on that specifically, this one would be one of the few that are there to kind of maybe hypothetically receive that attention if it were to come for the niche. That's the way I view it. So arguably, again, if there is the hype there for a project like Veracity, if there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle, 4 cents wouldn't surprise me if that were to maybe happen. Now, the next price scenario I want to take a look at is 4.5 cents. Around a 34.6x from here, and market cap at that point would be around $430 million. And again, the way I view it is that this market cap doesn't seem too outlandish to me. Like, for instance, just as a example, right? We've seen Dogecoin back in 2021 reach over $80 billion in market cap. I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about, even if we just consider 80 billion. And then we consider 10% of that, so it's 8 billion, right? Even at that point, this market cap right here wouldn't even be 10% of that, right? Again, 10% of that 8 billion, which is 10% of, let's say, an $80 billion market cap. Kind of crazy to think about, but again, this is just the way I take a look at it. It doesn't seem something like too, I think, outrageous maybe in the grand scheme of things in my mind. However, the third and final price scenario I want to take a look at is 5 cents. Around a 38.5x from here, and market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around 480 million. Still, not even a market cap of $500 million. But even besides that, I actually like the factors right now when compared to back in 2021 when it comes to altcoins. Let me explain why. Supposedly, there's over 600 million crypto owners right now, as opposed to back then in 2021, during the peak of that bull run, around 300 million crypto owners. So again, we pretty much have double the amount of crypto owners right now, supposedly. and we take a look at the hype for the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF. Now, granted, I don't think arguably we've seen a fully fledged type of altcoin season this cycle, but if it were to maybe happen just because of that many new crypto owners, just because of the hype of the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, I think that if, let's say, it looked better than back then, wouldn't surprise me. And just again, maybe seeing, VRA have a market cap that is slightly under $500 million. At that point, let's say there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season. It doesn't surprise me too much because it's not like it needs a market cap of like 50 billion or like 80 billion to reach the price of 5 cents. This is the way to take a look at it. But even besides that, what is the timeline? Some people may be wondering. Now, personally for me, I do not know the future. However, I can at least take a look at the past and take a look at some clues from the past, arguably. Now, usually altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. Last Bitcoin halving event happened in April of 2024, so 18 months on top of that, October this year. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be that exact time frame, though, in my opinion, because that is based off history. It could be different this cycle. But let's say it happens in November, December, or January, February of next year, or maybe even March. Just let's say around that Q1 timeframe for 2026. Whatever the timeline is, I'm going to stay patient. I'm going to be holding and just waiting. That's it, because that's the only thing that's within my control, and that's myself. So I'm going to stay patient, hold, and just prepare for a moment in time as opposed to finding the perfect time, if that makes sense, which is why I'm just, again, dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. I treat it like a patience game, and I'm just going to stay patient as of right now and just wait. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Greatly appreciate it. It's Molly the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.